everybody. I am so excited for our second workshop. We are here to talk about when is the right time to pursue a graduate degree. I mean, you are all professionals in your careers. You are all potentially thinking about it or are already in a graduate degree, or maybe you're considering pursuing an additional graduate degree if you've already got one. This is an extremely pertinent and relevant topic for anybody who's thought about more education. This workshop is for you. I'm really excited for you to experience our guest speaker this evening. It's going to be really insightful, very data-driven. It's going to have a lot of facts and figures that will hopefully help you make the most educated decision about what makes the most sense for you. By the way, my name is Garrett Mintz. I'm the founder of Ambition in Motion. And really, you've already started meeting with your mentor. That is awesome. Hopefully, you've already set up your first meeting. Maybe you've even already set up your second meeting. If that's the case, that's amazing news. But the focus for this workshop is how can you be intentional about really taking steps forward for yourself professionally. Now, I know that these workshops are on a wide array of topics. Obviously, our first workshop was on how to transition into a managerial role. This workshop's about determining whether or not it's worth it to pursue a graduate degree. But I really want to challenge you that when you're in your mentor meetings, that you are customizing it to your experience for what you want to accomplish with your own career. Because I recognize that some of these workshops are more relevant to you than others, and that's, by the way, completely okay. We bring in really amazing world-class guest speakers to come in and be our guests for these workshops, and that's fantastic. And the ideal goal is that all of them are relevant to you, but I recognize that it varies. And some workshops are going to be more relevant to some people than other people. But what I want you to recognize is that even in this workshop, even if you feel like it's not the most relevant to you, that there's a lot of nuggets. There's a lot of topics that we talk about with our guest speaker that I believe can apply to a lot of situations that you may face in your life. So I'm really excited to get started. Now, one thing that I really want to focus in on, and this is something we talked about last time in our workshop, and that is understanding your strategy, your story, and your state. Those are the three keys to being successful in this program. The most important one, that being state. So physically, where are you? What is going on in your world? Are you having a bad day? Are you having a stressful day? Are you having a difficult time with your significant other? Did your dog just die? I don't care what is going on with your world, no matter how stressful, no matter how mad, no matter how angry, no matter how bad anything is going on in your world, you can change your state in a matter of seconds because your emotions drive your emotions. So what I want you to do right now to get yourself ready for this workshop is I want you to stand up and I want you to shake it out. I want you to shimmy it loose. I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. Just go, yeah! Just let it loose, let it out, let it go. Because what you're doing is you're letting blood flow to your brain. You're releasing endorphins in your brain. You're getting yourself into a state conducive for receiving information. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when you sit down for too long, you have diminishing returns on your mental investment. Your likelihood of retaining that information is significantly minimized. So I want to challenge you to get up, shake it out, let it loose, get your blood flowing, because your blood's flowing to your brain. Your likelihood of actually remembering this information is significantly higher. Now, when you're going into your mentor relationship, when you're meeting with your mentor, if you can get your blood flowing before those mentor meetings, you're much more likely to retain the information your mentor has to say for you and to you. But if you don't get yourself into a state ready for this mentor relationship, your likelihood of making the most out of that experience diminishes. So I want you to get yourself into a state. Now, the next key is your story. What is the story you tell yourself? Why will you be successful? I'd love to know it. In fact, actually, if you could, post in the comment section, why are you going to be successful? I mean, if in your mind you think, hey, I'm cool with mediocre, I'm cool with just settling, this program is not for you. I can tell you that right now. If you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want to settle, I just want to kind of like not really aspire for too much, you wouldn't be in this mentor program. So what I'm here to tell you is shoot for the stars, have big, crazy, hairy, audacious goals. And by the way, don't let anybody else judge you for your goal, because your goals are your own. So what is audacious to you may not be audacious to somebody else, and what is audacious to somebody else may not be audacious to you, but that is okay. It's not for you to judge, it is for you to make strides for yourself, because at the end of the day, this program is about personal growth and confidence, helping you put yourself into the best position for you to succeed. So if you can tell yourself a story for why you will be marginally to exemplary, significantly better than where you're at the beginning of this program, that is awesome, and that is where I want you to go. That's where I want you to be. Now, the last part is your strategy. What is the strategy that you're going to do to start putting yourself in the best position to succeed? Now, this program, this workshop specifically, is about when is the right time to pursue a graduate degree. Now, one thing that I strongly encourage you to do, because here's the thing, at the end of the day, your strategies are all about routines. We think about routines both in the bad sense as well as the good sense. Bad routines are, things that we consider habits, bad habits, they're bad. But we typically have a negative connotation around habits just because of so many bad habits we've heard about. But there's a lot of things and a lot of beneficial things with good habits. So what are things that you can do on a daily, regular basis that helps you prepare for anything that you want to be better at? That is what I want to focus on. So one strategy that you can implement is implementing a SWOT analysis on a monthly basis of your life, of your career, of your higher education experience, of anything. Doing a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So if you're currently right now in a job and you're thinking to yourself, I'm contemplating a graduate degree, but I don't really know right now, what you'll want to think about is, what are the strengths of pursuing a graduate degree? What are the weaknesses of pursuing a graduate degree? What are the opportunities of staying in your current role? And what are the threats to leaving your current role for this graduate degree? If you can lay this out for yourself, it will help you on a substantial level towards making the most educated decision for yourself for why you should or should not pursue a graduate degree. Now, our guest speaker this evening is going to talk about the literal specific facts and figures of financially, when does it make sense for you to get a graduate degree, and when does it not make sense for you to get a graduate degree? And so I think you're going to really enjoy what our guest speaker has to say about this, because the insight is unbelievable. I think you're going to really enjoy it. But in terms of the strategies, I want you to do a SWOT analysis to help you prepare for that. The other thing is, I want you to start having more informational interviews beyond just your mentor. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what stage of life you are in. You can have conversations with people. Just because you're not a quote unquote current college student in a collegiate sense, you're still a student of life. You're still a student of professional outcomes. And by being willing to admit that you're still a student, you can take the knowledge of somebody else. You can say, hey, I'm a student. I'm interested in learning more about XYZ field. Would you be willing to have a coffee with me or a conversation with me? That is a great conversation starter for you to learn more about other fields, because at the end of the day, it's not about stagnating. It is about growing. It is about learning. It is about being uncomfortable and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So those are the key points I really want you to take away from our workshop this evening. I'm so excited to jump into our guest speaker. By the way, if you've not connected with me on LinkedIn yet, please do so. We have a LinkedIn community, a Ambition in Motion group where all of us participate in it. We can post our questions. Our entire community can answer them or see them or relate to them. It's a really cool place to be. If you don't have a LinkedIn, absolutely get a LinkedIn. If you do have a LinkedIn, you have not connected with me, I strongly encourage it. I'm so excited to get started, and I'm so excited for you to experience our guest speaker this evening. Thanks for your time. I'm looking forward to get this guest interview going.
Hey everyone, welcome to our recording this evening. I'm so excited to dive in. Our topic is how to know when is the right time to pursue additional education. So you might be currently getting your MBA. You might be currently getting your undergraduate degree. You might be pursuing some form of education. And as you're pursuing this education, you might be contemplating to yourself, okay, why would I go about getting an additional degree? When is the right time to go about pursuing it? How will it actually give me a return on my investment? All these questions are probably going through your mind. Well, fortunately, we've got a great guest with us here this evening. We've got Kesavan Venugopal. I also call him Venu for short. Venu, thanks for being here.
I'm excited to be here, Garrett.
So Venu, tell me your story. One, tell us a little bit about what you do, who you do it for, and how you got to this position.
Okay. So I lead a software engineering team within Cummins, where we kind of build digital solutions that actually kind of help with some of the service activities and service events for Cummins. But mainly when a customer calls in for, hey, I have a product and it's serviced. So the diagnostics activity, collecting the data from that particular product, planning a service, and then invoicing the customer back is what we kind of handle within my team at Cummins.
How did you get into this position? What was your career trajectory like? How did you get from going to college to where you're at today?
Okay, so I have a undergrad degree in computer science and engineering from University of Mysore in India, and I kind of pursued that computer science engineering kind of a path after I kind of graduated. I started working for a startup company in Bangalore for about 3 years. Then I got an opportunity to go consult with Citibank and JP Morgan in Singapore.
Venu, can I ask a couple questions? So you graduate college, you started working at a software or a startup.
Yes.
Well, why'd you pursue it seems like that's a very fascinating move to do right out of college. What drew you to the startup? What made you want to pursue that sort of life versus like a corporate type of
Yeah.
life?
So at that time, your mind is very young. You just want to kind of, challenge yourself. This company that I talked to, they were building something that is really cutting edge at that point for one of their US clients in Bangalore. And they were actually using Google, something like Google Maps, before even Google came into, the limelight, to help police, units tracking kind of, software. So they could track where the police units are. When a call comes in, like a 911 call comes in, they were building a product that can help figure out, hey, who are the closest units that can actually kind of address that particular call that actually kind of came in. So that was the software that they're building. It sounded very cool. Everybody else were working on relational databases, building big ERPs and things like that. I decided, okay, I think this is more interesting. And so I chose to kind of go to a startup company compared to a large company, that set up shop to build large ERP systems. So that was what I did.
And when you left the startup, why'd you leave the startup and what'd you go to next? You said Citibank.
So,
Why'd you make the transition from startup to
yeah,
firmly
so
established Citibank?
yeah, so it was a good consulting opportunity I got. So one of the challenges that they brought up with Citibank that I could actually kind of help them was they needed somebody who's like a pure software engineer who can come in and help locally manage some of their softwares in Singapore. So that was a really good opportunity for me. So I kind of thought, okay, hey, that's a good step for me to kind of jump into. It's a multinational I'm going to work with. They're dealing with real customers in a financial world. So that exposure I was not getting in a startup. Okay, so startup,
I just want to ask a clarifying question because I've heard like rumors about this, and I think you and I have talked about this before. And I'd be curious to learn how long this has been in existence. But in the United States, we're accustomed to the 2-week notice. You give 2 weeks notice for when you're about to leave a role. But from our previous conversations in the past, in India, it's 90 days notice.
Yeah.
Was that the case back when you left?
This was 96.
Okay.
That was not the case. So I could actually get out of my, the startup company in like 10 days notice. So
when did the whole 90-day notice thing come? I'm just fascinated. When did that
I think
come into effect?
I think the trend in India changed when a lot of these multinational companies started setting up shop, in India, and there was huge demand for software engineers, and they were unable to kind of, find the right software engineers. So they would actually go and say, hey, you are being paid X amount of rupees for a salary. I will actually kind of, double it, or I will actually give you a 50% raise. And you literally will not find anywhere that you can get 50% raise, right? So people started hopping jobs really fast. Then that kind of set a wrong trend with companies where even if you hire somebody, there's no guarantee that that person works for you more than 6 months. So people started jumping wherever there was a better pay. So a lot of these companies started deciding on, okay, hey, I want to kind of hold you back. I'm investing into hiring you. I am investing into training you to kind of become productive. And in a 6 months time, if you actually leave, my investments don't add value to the whole organization. So they started looking at different alternatives. They started getting legal consultants come in and help them decide, okay, what to do. And that's how probably kind of it got into. So by the time it actually got to that point, maybe mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006 ish, I was way out of there, and so I was not kind of engaged in that kind of an activity at that point.
Yeah, no. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, so you're now at Citibank. You're doing this really interesting consulting work for Singapore. How long were you there? And when you left, why'd you leave?
So I was with Citibank for about 2 years consulting with them, and they had actually kind of changed over consulting to a completely different vendor. We were still kind of subcontracted through those vendors, but however, the vendor that was actually kind of subcontracting with us, wanted us to kind of support them in during the development phases and the production support activities. So which was kind of taxing all of us, and we probably, spend more than like, 10, 12 hours every day, and it kind of burned out. So I decided, okay, I told my employer that, I don't want to kind of renew the contract after 2 years. I want to kind of find something else and do that. So they actually kind of found me another, consulting opportunity with JP Morgan in Singapore. So I spent about 9 to 10 months with JP Morgan Singapore, finishing up a project. They had somebody who was actually working for them, and that person left, and the project was not completely closed out. So I came in and helped them, finish that project and launch that out for them. So by the time, I was actually thinking, okay, Singapore, I need to move out of Singapore. What do I do now? And so I talked to my company, which was actually headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So they said, hey, there's an option for you to come here to the US, or there's an option, they have, project going on in Japan. So we were kind of, looking through each of them. And then finally I decided, okay, now I'm coming to the US. So they processed my, visas, and that's all kind of, approved and ready. And then I took a 6-month sabbatical, went back, spent time with family. It's been a long time since I kind of spent time with family that long. And so I spent some time with family, and then called back in 6 months and told my company, hey, I'm ready. So they set me up with 2 interviews. One was a company out of Atlanta. The other one was—
Wait, Venu, real quick, is that normal? Because I think a lot of students are hearing this and like, that sounds pretty darn great. If I could say, hey, I'll take an offer, but I can take a 6-month sabbatical and then come on back. At the time, was that normal? Is that more normal now?
No, it was not normal. So when I said I want to take off and go back to India for some time, they said, okay, we'll call you in 2-3 weeks. I said, no. They said, okay, we'll call you in a month. I said, no, I will let you know when I'm ready to come back. So it took me about 6 months, to kind of realize, okay, I'm ready to get back into the professional, career side. And then, but I didn't sit idle in India while I was actually there, So I started, gaining more skills there. I knew there were some new tools that were actually coming to the market that's become very popular. I wanted to make sure I kind of, got some foundation in it. So the 6 months I was there, I was spending time learning something new, working on some, local projects there, helping some people on that particular technology. So that's what I was actually kind of doing at that time. So, but I was not doing it with a timeline. I was not doing it to kind of, deliver something overnight or anything like that. So just a casual kind of, working environment there. But I got to spend a lot of time with my family, and, it's been a while since I can, because I've been through boarding school. I've been in a, then went to, professional undergrad courses, and then started working. So it's been a long time since I've actually spent, enough time with my parents and folks there. So that's why I decided, okay, I want to do that. So did that for about 6 months, from like January of 99 till like end of May of 99. That's when I called back and said, hey, I'm ready for it. So then with the visa that was actually kind of available, that's processed, I was able to kind of, get that stamped. And then I talked to 2 companies from India before I even arrived here. One was a company out of Atlanta that did logistics management, and the other company was Cummins. So the logistics management company first said, hey, okay, we'll actually bring Venu here. So I pack up, get ready, come to Pittsburgh. We usually they do an orientation for us, a 2-day orientation, and then I'm ready to fly to Atlanta. That's when Cummins comes back and confirms, hey, no, we need Venu here for this project. So now the company had to decide where I had to go, and then finally they decided, okay, I'm actually going to—
Wait, real quick. So essentially, if I'm hearing you right, you were a contractor for this organization in India, and these 2 companies, one in Atlanta and Cummins, who were saying, hey, we want to hire Venu to work with us. And the contract company was like, essentially, it sounds like who's ever making the highest offer, we're going to give.
Right. So it's a consulting company that employs people. So I was an employer of I was employed by them. They were my employer. Okay. So, and they, pick up large projects, and, work with large clients. So Cummins was one of their clients, and the other company in Atlanta was another client of theirs. So Atlanta, the team was very small, but the team here at Cummins, they had like literally 50, 60 people already placed at Cummins back at that time. So I think Cummins had a bigger pull for me. So I decided on that, and I arrived in Columbus. I started on my project. It was a 6-month project that I was actually given, but I kind of completed that in about 3.5 months. So I went back to my hiring manager, who brought me in here, and said, hey, I need something to do. So he said, what are you in? I said, I finished my work that I need to do, and I'm waiting for the app teams to finish their work. He said, okay, can you go help the app teams? I said, sure, yeah, I can do that. So I started helping the app team. And then about 1 month down the line, he came back and asked, hey, I have an opening in my org. Are you interested? I said, okay, let's talk about it. So we got to talk about it. It looked like a really good career move for me. And, there's a lot of opportunity for me. There's a lot of, value I could actually kind of, provide comments. And also I can gain because it's a, Fortune 500 company at that time even. So I decided, okay, I'm going to switch. And
So you switched from being a contractor for Cummins to actually working for Cummins.
Full-time Cummins, yes.
Yeah.
So 2000, I joined early Q1 of 2000. I just kind of joined Cummins as a full-time employee, and then I've been here. So came to Columbus, Indiana for a 6-month project, and I'm still counting my months.
That's awesome. So
that was back in June of '99.
So and you ended up getting additional education. What was that process like? Where'd you go? Why'd you pursue additional education?
Yeah. So when I got into Cummins, there were a lot of opportunities where, they were kind of, trying to do new. I was actually here at Cummins when we didn't even have a proper data center. Okay. So I saw the transition from having servers under your desk to small closets to big, large data center transformation. I've seen that. I've seen how we've actually kind of transferred from a lot of paper-based solutions to digital solutions. So I've been involved in a lot of that. And so Cummins did a huge transition, from that point at, in the early 2000s to, if you look at today, okay? What I did was when I had an opportunity, I evaluated my skills. I kind of had a lot of mentors who would actually kind of, be very open about advising me on, okay, what do you need to have a skill set versus the experience to kind of target a particular role. And with their guidance and with their advice, I was able to kind of pick and choose, certifications, trainings, and things like that. So I'm mostly going through some sort of a model where I'm trying to kind of pick based on what I really wanted at that point of time. Okay, so that's how I was kind of going. So it was kind of very very selective kind of training that I kind of did at that point. So based on, okay, if I needed project management kind of training, I went into a project management certification. If I needed a business analyst kind of skill set and knowledge, I would actually go to a business analyst certification.
How did you determine that that's what you needed though? So
based on what opportunities were actually kind of coming up, based on what my mentors told me, hey, there is going to be all those huge programs that's kind of kicking off. They're going to need some people with these kind of skills. Can you actually kind of get in? You have a good background with IT, software engineering, and with these some of these skills, you can actually kind of do well in the team. So that's what kind of created that interest in me, and then I started learning. So over time, I kind of built that kind of skill set, and then with my 10, 12 years with Cummins, and they kind of gave me opportunity to kind of get into more IT management kind of roles. Okay, so when I got into IT management kind of roles, I kind of started realizing there are a lot of things that I should do that I really didn't get trained, don't even have proper foundation. I'm actually having to ask a lot of my managers, a lot of my mentors to help me and things like that. So that kind of helped me think through, okay, what do I need to do now? What is my next level, right? Where do I need to go from here? What is my career trajectory like? So based on that, with mentors who kind of advised and things like that, they gave me an advice saying, okay, these are some of the skills that you need to kind of have, some of the experiences you need to have. Think about, okay, if an MBA can actually help you in that management track of it. So it became pretty obvious that, okay, I needed to get some more management kind of foundation. So that's what kind of drew me into MBAs too. So it became obvious that that's what I needed to do. Now the next task is, okay, what do I want to do in an MBA program, right? What focus do I need to kind of look into? What do I need to focus on? And what programs actually provide that kind of particular focus into that particular areas? So that kind of drove me to kind of think, well, what am I interested in? What do I want to do 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? Where do I actually want to kind of see myself sitting and working? And so my interests were a lot in like strategic development, a team building people to kind of, look at what they can actually kind of, how do we kind of, harness the full potential of people. So that's what I was actually really interested in. So then I started looking at, MBA programs that actually had specific, courses and foundation in those particular areas, So that's how I kind of finally decided, okay, I want to do an MBA at this place, and then kind of chose to kind of go doing that MBA. So that's how I transitioned into, now I'm actually kind of thinking, okay, I need a really incremental, move, right? I need to jump from this much of education and experience to this level, right? So that is what kind of told me, okay, I spent 2 years in an MBA program, and then this is what I will actually kind of come out with, at the end of the MBA program, and that's what I really wanted. So that's what helped me decide on doing an MBA as a next level education.
Did Cummins help compensate for the MBA program?
Yes, some level of it was actually kind of compensated. Cummins did have its own MBA program going on at that point. Okay, there were only Cummins employees attending that. Okay, I had a intention to learn from others, other companies, other industries. Okay, if it is strategy related, okay, how do they actually operate? How do they actually kind of do things? I didn't want to kind of just look at it with a closed mind of just people from the same background, same organization coming back in. So I didn't want to do that. So because of that, I didn't get fully compensated. Okay, but they were actually kind of okay with me taking the days out. They did kind of compensate a little, eventually. So but they did not actually pay the full fees for Cummins, because
that's good.
It's not a standard program.
So I think a lot of students who are watching this might think like, okay, I think some students think to themselves like, oh, either I need to go pursue this MBA on my own, don't even tell my employer about it, and they won't cover it, so I shouldn't even ask. You get some students who expect like, oh, my company is going to cover all of it, so once I get accepted, I'll just send them the bill and they'll just like pay me.
So no, I think whatever it is, if the company is going to pay for you or not pay for you, you should tell the company. You will end up taking days off just to sit and learn, to go to class, go to seminars. And you need your manager and company to know that you will take those days off. So it's better to be very open about it. Tell them that you're going to do this. This is the kind of commitment you need to make, and the company need to agree that if you have to take 2 days off in a week, every month, right? And they need to know that, or they need to know that in a month you might take 3-4 days off, in one of those weeks in the month, right? They need to know that. And you can actually schedule that. You can actually make sure you block your calendar for that. So there is no question about why is this person missing at work, right?
Yeah.
So the moment you talk to your manager, your HR team comes to know about it, they're all in agreement, and you don't have any concerns through the 2 years of time. That's why you need to talk to them.
I think that makes tons of sense. I've definitely seen some students where they would go to get their MBA while they're working, not tell their employer about it, do the online MBA, get their MBA, and then come back into work and be like, surprise, here's my MBA, where's my bonus, where's my raise, where's my promotion? And the company's like, this is news to me. This is the first time I heard. We don't necessarily have a need for you in these other areas. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And then they're all disheartened, like, what did I just spend this time and money for getting this MBA? And it's really their own fault because they never told anybody about it. So I think that's a really, really good point of just keeping your employer apprised of the things that you're considering. And they, to your point, might actually be willing to compensate all or a portion of that education.
Yeah. So this is how I look at it from a career standpoint, right? It is your responsibility to define what your career trajectory is, what you want to do next, how you want to get it accomplished. Okay. It's your manager and the company that can actually help you achieve that. An MBA, be it, going and doing something new, working on some completely different idea where you gain that experience. That's for you to define what you want to do. But when you work with your manager and when you work with your company, they can actually help you achieve that sometimes. In most cases, and that's my experience here at Cummins.
That's awesome. No, that makes a ton of sense. I love to ask the students a question. What is your career trajectory over the next 5 years post in the comment section. I'd love to learn about that. Even if it's not getting an additional education, just I'd love to learn, what do you envision your career trajectory to be? Because I think, to your point, Venu, having that intentional mindset as to where you want your career to go is critical. It's not your boss's job to define your career path for you. And I think so often employees, professionals will just kind of sit back and wait, and then sit disgruntled because their boss hasn't given them a raise or a promotion that like is that you essentially have to take your own career path by the ropes and steer it to whatever direction you want to take it. And if you don't, you can't be, the only person you can be upset at is yourself.
Correct. Exactly. I mean, people, I mean, I see in my experience, I've actually seen people, take career planning in a very passive way and a very active way. Okay. When I say passive way, what it means is, they're at a job, they feel that, they do that for 3-4 years, they gain some experience and automatically go to the next one. And they'll do some, small courses, then go to the next one. So it's very passive, you're not planned it, you're not kind of set a certain, target to kind of achieve, over a period of time and things. So you're just kind of moving still. Okay. That's also a career progression. But then there are people who actually would do very active planning, They will tell, hey, this is the role I'm in today, and these are the skills I actually have today. Now, I want to kind of target position A or position B. These are the kind of skills and experience I need for position A, position B. They will work with their manager, they will work with the company to achieve that. And what happens in that case is when position A or B opens up, everybody knows that you've actually kind of been doing this stuff. You have the skills, you have the experience. No brainer, your name comes up on the top.
So after you got your MBA, what happened? Did you get a promotion? Did you get a title change? Like, what was the result of you getting your MBA?
As soon as I finished my MBA, I got my portfolio increased. Okay, I had a very small portfolio with a smaller team. I got 2 other teams added into me to kind of manage and deliver, which was kind of a internal promotion that I got with my company.
That's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
It is.
I think that's like the ideal outcome for most people if they're thinking about doing it.
And it happened even before just before I graduated. So that's how they kind of look at it. And then immediately after that, I did get about a year and a half later, I did get a completely new promotion, new title, everything like that. A completely new team added to my portfolio to manage and so on. Okay, so that's a year after that, I was actually picked to go in and lead a whole new, an internal venture Cummins was actually kind of doing, go help, resolve the problems, see how we can actually kind of transition from a consultant company that was actually kind of helping us grow that into internal purposes. So I was actually kind of picked for that. And those kind of experiences were just kind of unbelievable. And so every year and a half or 2 years, I would actually kind of go get new responsibilities, increase my portfolio. Then in the current role, has been like transitioned twice for me already. Okay, a smaller portfolio where I was actually managing like about $10 million worth of work in a year. Today, it's close to like $35-37 million of work. So that's the annual operating kind of plan. So that is how I've actually kind of grown my career, responsibilities, new tasks to new responsibility, kind of deliver new things. So that's how I actually kind of grew.
That's awesome. I mean, I think this is a really positive story as to how to determine when the right time is to pursue additional education. I think you determined the right time, you hit it right at the right time, and you were actively communicative with your employer during that process. Are there things that, if let's say a student is maybe not in a company that's willing to sponsor them to go get their education, but they really feel the desire or drive to go get that MBA or get that additional education, what would your advice be for them to determine what is the right amount to pay, and what is the right amount of time to take, and what is the right expectation in terms of outcome for pursuing that additional education?
There should be a very intentional need for you. Okay, for me, my intentional need was I had no clue, no foundation on how to work through strategy, how to kind of think through that, how to set vision, how to kind of build the right team, for what we need to kind of deliver. I didn't have any clue on that. So those were some of the really, high intentional tasks or goals I had to kind of meet, and objectives I had to meet. Okay, so that is what kind of drove me to kind of figure out, okay, how do I actually kind of go achieve this stuff, right? And that drove me to kind of go in and figure out, okay, where is it that I would actually feel comfortable learning from, and what is the value that I get out of, spending that money, spending that time. Okay, so that is how I kind of decided on, okay, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. Okay, so like I said, right, I didn't choose to kind of go with the Cummins provided MBA. They would have covered everything for me, and it would have been easy. I just had to live in Columbus, I can just do all my classes offline. And if I had to kind of go in for a in-person class session, it's like an hour drive for me from there. Okay, so that's how close it was. But I chose something different where I had to drive 4 hours every month, spend my own money, staying in a hotel near the near the university, and studying, sitting there and studying with a completely new set of people who I never met before I started my MBA. Okay, so that is completely different. And then, of course, a lot comes out from the alumni network and how you can actually kind of tap into that.
I was about to ask. I'd love to ask a question about that. So, do you still stay in touch with people from your MBA program today? How critical of a notion is that? I think a lot of people, if they're considering getting an additional degree, a lot of them would think, oh, I'm definitely going to do the online thing. But I think a big part of the thing that you lose with the online degree is the ability to interact with colleagues and classmates. So do you still stay in touch with those people from your MBA program?
Very much.
I feel like that network would be so powerful because you got a bunch of
very powerful
individuals.
It is not just about career there. It's about even life matters, right? When you actually have a difficult situation in your life, there are people who will actually kind of come in and help. There are people who actually kind of say, hey, get connected with this person who I know of in your area. Go talk to them, and they'll actually come. And there will be situations that way. So it is not about just getting an MBA. It's about building that relationship. It's about building that network that you need to kind of help you progress forward. Okay, it's getting that face-to-face relationship built actually boosts your net worth really higher. That's what I would actually say. Your MBA net worth higher. That's what I would say.
Say that one more time.
So if you actually have that relationship built, a face-to-face relation, in a relation that you have, meeting people, talking to them over the 2 years that you have actually kind of done, right? The net worth of that particular money that you have invested is actually kind of boosted up really high.
Yeah,
so that's what it is.
That, I mean, I can definitely attest to that. I personally don't have an MBA myself, but a friend of mine who I knew when I was first getting Ambition Emotion started off the ground, Maureen, she when she got her MBA was studying with a classmate of hers. Turns out it was Tom Linebarger. And yeah, so she connected me with him, and he was super helpful and a great guide to me as I was getting Ambition Emotion started early on in the early phases of the company. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, Tom is the CEO of Cummins. So really nice guy. Yeah, he was really helpful and really nice. He was very generous with his time to even meet with me, as he's a super busy guy, and I was a 22, 23-year-old entrepreneur just figuring my life out and getting the company off the ground. So when it comes to financials, how do you determine what is the right amount to, I guess, I know obviously it seems uncouth maybe to talk about money, but I think it's a really important piece to talk about for this. For students who are thinking to themselves, okay, how do I determine the value of this MBA program? Because there's a lot of different prices you could pay. You can go to a purely online education that's maybe a little more cost effective and it gets you that MBA, or you go to an Ivy League school and you're paying in excess of $100,000 a semester for this MBA program, and anything in between. How do you go about determining the value? What is the proper amount of value you should anticipate from having an MBA from which institution?
It's hard to put a straightforward number to that. Yeah, but it actually is about, one is, okay, the MBA that you're choosing, does it really provide you with what you really needed? Okay. We talked about, I had a very clear intention of, okay, what I wanted to really learn. Of course, I'm going to learn accounting. I'm going to learn, managerial accounting. I'm going to learn financial stuff. But that was not my top thing there. Yeah, I was actually focused on something else. So that is one of the key points to kind of say, okay, yeah, this is an MBA that you want to go get where it covers what you really need. Of course, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. Are you going to be able to afford that and pay that off, right? And that's how I kind of decided, okay,
Within
there
what
are,
time period? Like, I mean, everyone's intentionally going to always be able to pay it off, but
True,
they might
true.
pay it off in 20 years versus 2 or something.
True. Yeah. So for me, from my company, there was minimum, your annual, educational, coverage was actually kind of very small, because I didn't follow the common standard, MBA. So I was actually put into that, so I got probably about $7,000 a year. I know that's what I could actually kind of get, but that was not enough to cover anything that, any part of it, of the MBA that I was actually kind of, doing. Because I didn't want from a school that was, that that people did not really kind of rate in the top 20. Okay, I wanted to kind of make something within the top 20, and I chose an executive MBA program that actually was in the top 20 at that time. Okay, so that's how I chose it, and of course, I did decide, okay, this is what I'm going to get from Cummins. This is what I'm going to kind of spend, and I should be able to kind of pay it off within the next 5 to 6 years. And that's how I kind of calculated. And that's how I went about calculating. And different people will have different amounts. In there, some people might come and say, I want to make sure I pay it off in 2 years. Or some people might come and say, I want to pay it off in 10 years. And that's fine. It's about how you would decide on what you want to kind of do in your life. What are your other priorities? It's, you don't want to be just an education loan payment pauper, right? Because you don't have food to eat because you have to pay your education loan. You don't want to get to that level, right? I had a family to kind of take care of, pay my home mortgage and also kind of pay my education loan. That's how I kind of figured out, okay, can I afford this? Does it have that value that I actually get? Is it one of the top 20 I want to kind of get into? So that's how I kind of made that decision on, okay, where I want to go to my MBA.
I love that. So let me ask the students a question on this topic. If you were to go and get an additional education, within what time period would you want to have that education paid off? Post in the comments section. How many years would you like? I guess, and the reason why I ask this is because I think it's important to be intentional about this. If we think, oh, I'm just going to go get an MBA, or I'm going to go get a PhD, or I'm just going to go get the additional education just for the sake of getting an additional education, and we're not intentional about what time period would I feel comfortable with having paid this off by, we might be paying for this for the rest of our lives. So post in the comment section, by what point in time would you like to have had this paid off, students? So Venu, for you, I think it made tons of sense. Like, it seems like your career really skyrocketed from getting an MBA, but have you ever seen or observed, not necessarily horror stories, but a scenario where it didn't work out quite like it worked out for you, where someone went, got an MBA, got an additional degree, and it didn't necessarily propel their career forward? What were some learning lessons from that, if so?
It's some of them in my classmates, they had situations where the company was actually kind of not doing very well, and and they got laid off and so on. So those situations are right. That's unavoidable, right? It's not something that is under your control, right? Now you're trying to kind of work through your career, you kind of go get an MBA, come back, and by the time during that time, the company is not doing very well, they're kind of trying to cut costs, and you got nicked because of that. And that's bad luck. That happens, right? There are situations where company asks them to go get an MBA because they will actually kind of get them to this particular role or particular level. And then by the time they finish their MBA, the management structure changed. They had to wait a longer period before they can actually kind of get to that point. Okay. So I've actually had, cases in my class that way. Okay. So things can actually happen, but my take on that is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you're actually kind of going to go get an MBA, that is your career growth. Okay. Love your job, love the way you be loyal to your company, but the companies can actually go do better or do bad, right? So you always have an alternative plan. What happens if the company does not get there? Are you going to go run as a consultant? Start your own business? Are you going to go find another place where you can actually kind of immediately kind of add value? Do you have that network? Do you have that connection, right? Can you use the alumni network to quickly kind of go find another alternative that can actually kind of just keep you moving forward again, right? So those are plans that you need to have in your back pocket. And otherwise, life is never simple and easy. It's not a straight line, right? So I would always say people should have backup plans, always. And if you're working for a company and you get laid off, you need to have a backup plan, right? And you can't be just coming back, sitting home and crying about it. No, move on, right? Next step. What is the next step? Because otherwise, if you sit and cry over it, you're going to be crying forever with it, right? So move on. What's the next step?
I like that. I do want to caveat my 2 cents on backup plans. So I've got a very interesting take on backup plans because I've seen people have backup plans that are vastly different than what they're doing right now. And the issue with having vastly different backup plans from what you're doing right now is like I've heard someone say, oh, well, I'm going to go off and be an accountant somewhere. And if that doesn't work out, I'm going to go and be an author. It's like, okay, those are 2 very, very different career paths where the skills you learn for one of them, being accountant, is not at all helping you with being an author. So when you say backup plan, I think I want to be very clear. At least my take on it is, if you have a backup plan, it's doing something where you've leveraged the skills, the experience, the education you've achieved in that area to further amplify some other career path that you're pursuing, where it complements each other and isn't a net zero. Not to say it's a net, no education will be a net negative, but some education will be a net, like, doesn't necessarily amplify you in this next career path, whereas some has a very clear correlation there.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to give you a job if you're not going to add value to them starting day one, right? So how can you add value to them? It's your education, it's your experiences so far, it's the skills that you bring in that can immediately kind of help them, recognize the value. So an employer will always look at that. But at the same time, when you said author, I was actually thinking there's so much demand for content creators now. So if you're an author and if you can create content, you could build that skill up. If you have a situational where you got laid off or something like that, no, for a temporary purpose or for a temporary period, you can actually kind of be a content creator. You can be authoring stuff. So you still are doing something that you're passionate about.
I like that. I mean, from an entrepreneurial mindset, I like that. But you sometimes hear people, especially that are in the creative world, where they're like, I'm not selling out to the man. I create my own content. It's like, well, hold on a second. You can still be very creative and be able to find business that's willing to pay you for the creativity that you bring. You don't have to necessarily have it be all your idea. So I like where you're going with that. I think that makes sense. I love to ask the students a question here. What would your backup plan be if based on your career path that right now, if God forbid the scenario you're working towards doesn't work out, what would be maybe a complementary area that you would like to work in? Post in the comments below. So Venu, this has been a really fascinating and very great story. I love hearing people's stories as to how they got to their career and what learning lessons they've had along the way. Are there any final tips or suggestions that you've got for students as they continue to pursue their career paths, as they continue to pursue or identify when is the right time to get additional education? What suggestions do you have for our students?
So 2 things. One, I already mentioned, right? You are the one who needs to define your career, right? That's the first thing I want to always, emphasize with everybody who works for me, who comes to me and asks for advice. You have to define your career. Nobody else is going to define it. Not your dad, not your mom, not your wife, not your spouse, not your manager. No, you define what that is. But you can go to all these people to get help. They can all help you move forward. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you have something in your hand, take care of it. Okay. If you have to say, for example, if you are the person who needs to take care of accounting for, 10 departments, you better do that really well. Okay. Don't sit and think that, I won't get that job, I'm going to start doing that work. No, do your job first well. If you have time, start thinking about what else you can do. So it's that, proverb that we have, right? A bird in hand is better than 2 in the bush, right? So, make sure what you have in your hand, you take care of it really well. That's the most important thing that you need to kind of keep in mind. So these are the 2 things I want to kind of let everybody know.
I really like that. I think that last advice is probably more critical now more than ever. It's easy to get squirrel syndrome, shiny object syndrome, where we're like, oh, nice, let's do that. Oh, cool, let's go there. And it's like, well, hey, if we've got these responsibilities, we should take care of business first, and that will open up opportunities because it's our reputation on the line.
Yep.
If we get a reputation of dropping a ball to go learn something new, the likelihood that those people we've interacted with previously are not that are going to recommend us is low. So it's really critical that we take care of business for the things that we're hired to do. Now, doesn't mean that we stifle all of our aspirations and goals. It just means that we need to be clear and communicative about where we would like to go and how we can get there. I'm a big fan of collaboratively working with the boss to identify those outcomes.
Yep.
And maybe you say, hey, boss, here's some of the areas that I would love to work towards. Can we kind of craft a scenario where, you know, I could work towards some responsibilities that can help me get into this type of role or type of work? So now your boss is incorporated in your career planning, as opposed to you coming in and saying, hey, I need this raise, or I need this promotion, or I need to be working on these responsibilities, or I'm walking, because that's not going to really inspire motivation in anybody to help you out.
Absolutely. Yep. That's
Cool.
very true.
Well, Venu, thanks for being here. Students, thank you all for being here. This was a great workshop. Have a great rest of your evening. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Wish you all the best.